Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started. Ready for this show today, you beautiful ladies?
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about how environment matters and why you need a space you thrive in. So I'm super passionate about this. I think because I realized after the fact when I changed my environment how much it was keeping me limited. And so I did all that I can to change my environment. So now I'm super aware of things around me and what keeps me successful and keeps me thriving. But just want to get your take on why you think environment matters and why you need a space you thrive in.
For me, the environment is a major key because it's feeding you. We feed off of energy. You know, everything it's energetic. When you are in a space of discord, toxicity, it's hard to feel your best, look your best, think your best. And that's all of the things that create our realities for us. So if your environment isn't supporting you, it isn't reinforcing your belief systems of greatness, health, wealth, wellness, then you're gonna expand on the opposite. So that's a key. But as you were saying that, right? Because some people might hear it and say, well, environment, they'll think space, they'll think physical. Some people don't have the opportunity to remove themselves from their environment yet until their mind catches up. So also for me, environment is in here too. What's your mental environment like? That's a key.
I love the keys.
I'm the janitor of this mental health shit now.
I was thinking about environment in order to flourish. I know for me, I didn't want for a long time to think about the details. I still sometimes don't like to because I get nervous about the details of things that I really want. And I think that's, it's getting more curious about that. So I know that's work that I'm continuing to do, because the more clear I get about what flourishing for me looks like, then I'm more clear on where I need to go, what kind of interactions I need to have, what things I should say yes or no to. So I think that letting yourself really imagine what feels amazing brings some answers to what a healthy, happy, well-balanced environment might look like for you.
Love that. Love that. And I want to, because Janessa mentioned about, what that environment kind of looks like. It could be mental or it could be physical. So I think we should unpack that a little bit. So environment to me would be where you live. So whether that's mental, emotional, it's a physical residence, it's the neighbor, like the neighborhood you live in. But I want to talk about that with you guys first about where you live and why that's super important to make sure that, I know for me, when I was in another type of relationship and we had 2 businesses and we had 7 animals and like
it was just a lot going on all the time. And because we had so many animals, we had to have people kind of staying with us all the time to take care of the animals between the two businesses and when we would fly out. And when I would come back, or, from a long day, or, going out vacationing or whatever, when I needed to recharge at home. So I didn't realize that my space needed to be somewhere I can recharge. But what I learned from when I was away from the space, because I didn't know that that was the issue. I was just fighting about the dogs and the family and this and that. And we got so much stuff and all that. What I realized is inside, I love minimalism. Like, I don't like managing a whole bunch of clothes and animals and people and businesses. And like, I actually wanted to limit the amount of things that I had in my life so that I can get more value out of the things that I did have. And I needed my space to reflect that. So it needed to be light and beautiful and airy, not with a whole lot of Tatski in it, but I didn't know that. I could not articulate that until I moved out and I created my own space. I got to understand that I like order. I like, limited amount of things to manage. I like beautiful spaces with candles and roses and all this stuff. So now it's hard for me to go back to something that's different, but I would not have known that about myself. So I just want to know if you guys have an experience like that or something you can share about that.
That is so environment for me, most of my life I grown up in a urban setting. So it was like packed up people. As a child in my formative years, although I didn't live with my grandma was the one who I was with all day, every day. You know what I mean? Like as a kid. And she had so many kids and she had like a number running service that had plenty of people in and out all day, every day. And it was a very get up, clean, work, help her run the numbers, give her privacy. It was like such a business at the house. So that had a lot to do with my mindset and the way I attracted things to me, period. And then at a certain point in my life moving forward, when I was maybe in my mid 20s, I was a lot like what you just said. I had a lot of things. It was just too much. Was managing so many things and always had a cousin living with me. I'm the cousin, the big cousin that takes care of one or two other cousins. They have before they figure their foot, they have to come. Like I'm the training wheel. I'm the training wheels for like independence. Like, oh, you're on your way. First, you got to live with Janessa, realize how tough that is, and then you should be able to handle an apartment. So that was that. And then I came to a point where I realized I didn't like that. And I no longer wanted to be in the position where I had to be a landlord to my cousins because it would cause problems and whatever. It was just all that stuff. And I wound up getting rid of all my things and my belongings and leaving and went to a different environment that I liked more, that was more naturey, less on top of each other. I lived in a house, not a building, apartment building. And those things just started to little by little shift what I liked. Made me realize, because it's like you said, you have to go through what you don't like to realize what you do like. So the hard part comes first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had that experience. And since then, I do now, I'm back in Brooklyn and I do live in an urban neighborhood. However, I don't live in high rises or mid rises or buildings, and I don't ever fucking want to. I turned down like a whole loft apartment in one of those big luxury buildings in Dumbo just because I was like, no, I don't want to be in a box. Like I need room. Right. And I like to have whatever things I reaccumulated, I like to have them in their own spaces. Like I learned I can have a lot of shit. I just can't be on top of another. I can't share space with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thing.
Yeah. I grew up on my grandma's house, similar to Janessa, and I actually, there was a lot of people that lived there. My grandma didn't run numbers, but they took everybody when they were newly arrived. So newly arrived to America. So it was a lot of people all the time. And just a whole bunch that lived there. I didn't have my own bed until I was 17. So yeah, so understanding like what my space is and what I can do with it and all of that is still something that I think I'm really just now kind of getting into. Like I remember when I had to do an ideal apartment assignment for Sherelle, in 2020. I just remember, like, what does your ideal home situation look like? I just remember being so frustrated because I said, why am I going to write a whole bunch of stuff that's completely unrealistic? I mean, just not only do I not have the money, again, I don't have the money. I can list that 20 more times, and that would be 20 really good reasons to not write out what my dream home would look like. I thought it was going to be a very depressing activity to do. Instead, after, she, encouraged me to do it a couple times, I said, okay, fine. And it wasn't depressing at all. And it was actually wonderful. And I got very clear on some things. I felt like I was watching a movie. Like, it just felt, oh, and then I kept going back and adding more details. And it felt beautiful. It felt fun. I'm so glad I made the time for that, because this was still in the time period of my life where I'd kind of roll my eyes at vision boards. So this just kind of felt like, like, it just felt like those things that you do to kill time if you don't have anything else to do. But it was completely the contrary. Every single apartment I went to see after I started reading that paper regularly, every single one had elements of what I had written out. And there was absolutely none that I saw that I couldn't have just moved into and have been happy with. So I don't know. I mean, now I understand how that works. But I just remember being like blown away. And I think it's very important to give yourself permission to want what you want, because I know sometimes I struggle when I think, well, how will I justify this to certain people who I love, who won't see the benefit in this? If I just say, oh, let me pick up and do this, let me live like that or live there, how will they feel about it? And then it's getting back to the, I'm not responsible for how they feel. And it's okay for me to want what I want. And it's like, life is going to work itself out. If it's meant for me, I should go ahead and seek it and not worry about how others don't see that same thing for themselves.
What you're saying right now reminds me of, because we're talking about the environment stuff. Sometimes we live in environments that are not supporting that belief system. That's what it is. Like I there's a thing in me that I'm like, the shit that I want is like ridiculous. Like you see, even my response to it is like, some part of me believes that it will be ridiculous. That's because in my environment, for majority of my time, it was considered too much for those people that I shared the environment with. And so I adopted that belief system because it programs, we're programmable. So now when I'm in the space of visioning, because that's what that is, vision boarding and having the visualizations of what it can be, it's like, I deserve all of this galactic shit. I want it all. It doesn't exist. This is my mindset now. Like, but if there's no one in my environment. That's why this is like now an ability, because I've learned that I had to shift out away from those people, because now I'm in the space of, yeah, does it exist? Are there apartments in private jets? Yeah. So that means I can have one.
But here's the thing. I'm glad that you guys both shared that, because that was, we all kind of had the same theme. Like, either I was in my environment and I was used to it, so it was a routine, so I never thought that I could have something different. It didn't even come to mind. I was just managing the environment around me. I never thought like, what if I had the environment I really liked, like, what, how would this be different? I was just seeing all the shit that needed to change. And the thing that both of you guys said was about like permission. You almost feel like you don't have permission to look for galactic things, for just to sit around and go like, what would I like my apartment to be like? What would I want in it? Like, we just don't. I remember when I was younger, my mom's friend had taken us on a drive to see all the beautiful homes in New York, like these $1 million homes. And we went and we saw all these homes, and my mom and I got back and we were both depressed. And she was like, yeah, I don't like going to see stuff like that, because it just depressed me, because it depresses her because she didn't think that was possible. And guess what? I took that on. Like, if she doesn't think it's possible, I don't think it's possible. So then, that creates this feeling of lack and powerlessness. So, I think people just don't give themselves permission. We need to do these assessments with our relationship and with ourselves. Every year, we just need to go like, how is my environment? And is it like everything that I want? And if it's not, like, just dream. Don't figure out what you need to take away, but like, just dream. I want to be more by the beach. I want to be by a hiking trail. I love nature. So if I love being in nature, I've got to be somewhere where it's probably warm most of the time. What I love about California is you can go to the mountains, you can go skiing, you can go to the beach, you can go to the desert, all within like a 2 hour, radius. So I can go wherever, to whatever climate I want. So I just, I think people just need permission to dream. So do you guys have any experiences with places that you live that you didn't even realize that that's what it was, that you just needed to change your environment?
For me personally, it was never the actual place that caused me to believe. I don't think. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's, I don't know if I'm answering it right.
It's okay.
I forced myself into that idea of believing. That's what I want to say. Like, there was times where, all right, for instance, like you said, you and your mom went and she had a friend that took her and everything like that. Well, I was the type of person that once I started to realize that I wanted to change and I had a little experience with like moving out and being around in different places, I started to tell myself, just go look at a house. So what? Like deep down inside, I was like, you can't, you're irresponsible. You're terrible with money. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to get a mortgage. You're not going to be able to open up a nonprofit. You're not going to be able to own a building. You do. If I tell you how many times a year I create these, oh, these are all part of my vision. I go and I walk into these houses. I go to open houses. I talk like as if I'm the richest bitch there, and they're missing out if I decide not to take it. Like, I walk in there, I talk about funding I haven't even had yet. I remember going to see a huge building for my idea for my nonprofit before I had even met anybody in an elected official position to even offer me type of a funding. And you know what I mean? And I just walk in there, oh, well, my office could be here and da, 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 da. So it was those things that kept me to believe. It would be like if I went on a vacation, or one of my things was like whenever I did Airbnbs and I go stay at these little cool spaces because they were like homes and stuff, this is what I would say. I lived here for a day. I lived here for 2 months or a week. I lived there for a week. Oh yeah, I've been there. I lived there for 2 weeks in that hotel. I know what it's like to live there because that's what we're doing. We're living. I'm living. I lived in a teepee for 2 nights. It was awesome. Best thing. You know what I mean? And those were the things that started to help me to believe that it's all an experience. That's the full purpose of it all. And the main thing coming from that is just like, yo, being not limited. Like, I don't know anything until I do it, period. I know nothing until I get it done. And then I will know better. And still maybe not all.
Exactly.
So I didn't know that your mental state had, like how you live has something to do with your mental state. I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't know, and I didn't see the correlation. And I remember one time years ago, I was living so miserably that one day my light bulb went out. Like I never really unpacked. I just kind of thought I was going to be living there for like a second. And I just kind of kept my bags out. But anyway, my light bulb went out and I just lived in total darkness. What time does it get dark in New York? 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock, it's just dark. I remember after like a year and a half or something, my roommate caught on and he's like, yo, it's like $1 for a light bulb. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And eventually he got a light bulb. Like that's how bad it was. I just didn't realize how this was a reflection of what was going on in my mind, and how I wasn't helping myself out by living so uncomfortably. And yeah, and I'm so grateful that I'll never live like that again. Also, I know, okay, I didn't know better. So it's like being easy with myself about how, the stuff that I've done before, but also knowing, okay, wow, celebrating how far I've come and say, okay, now have more freedom for more and more. And people who did stuff like what Janessa talked about, because I had one friend who was on parole and people would start talking about traveling. He'd be like, yeah, we should go here and here and there together. I'd get so mad. I'm like, you don't even have, like, why are you saying this stuff? Your parole officer just yelled at you. Like, I would be furious about him dreaming. And I will never be that person again in my life. Like,
it's funny. What you made me think about is that, we give people a hard time when they're, what they say and their behavior doesn't match up. But, you know, sometimes we got to be living high in our minds, and
Absolutely.
it may not actually translate as well because everybody's perception is different. But
Right.
you know, if you're living well in your mind and your body, then your neighborhood and your house doesn't matter as much. You know, you can work through it, but if you're living really bad in your mind and body, and you know, and you're cleaning up your space and trying to figure out why you still don't feel better, there is a link. And so it's great. We definitely got to give ourselves permission to dream, though, because that's the thing that we don't do. We tell ourselves that we can't do things all the time, so, and that's what we're fighting against all the time.
Yeah.
I have another question, because I think, you know, where you live is, you know, your residence and your neighborhood and stuff. But, you know, I think work matters too, because this is, you know, yes, mental, emotional is the number one thing you got to get together first before you probably can change anything. But sometimes you physically have to change something so that you can get your mind and body right. So, or your mind right? Your mind and emotions right. So, I think where you work matters too. So, because those are the people that you're around, that's if you feel like you're getting any value out of it. But do you guys have any experience where the work environment wasn't so great, um, and you work to change it?
Yeah, absolutely. Working for anyone other than myself doesn't work for me. It's like
I
it
had to
doesn't.
learn that the hard way.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work for me. As a young girl, I knew that my first jobs were like, you know, undermining you. You know, it would be a lot of men in position to tell me what I should and shouldn't do, and then there'll be a lot of flirting and all of that stuff. All of that was uncomfortable. And the belief system of, you know, it's a man's world and sexism and this and that, and you don't get paid enough and your ideas aren't valuable because you're a girl and you make them look weak, and all of that was way too much for me. I have such a masculine and strong personality that those things always depressed me, frustrated me, and made me feel like my worst self. Like to think that, oh, I have to be this quiet kept woman, and if I strive, I have to either do it in some sort of a like non-fulfilling way, or like you anyway, long story short, shit wasn't working for me. I did not like working for other people. And I worked for a lot of doctors who would try to talk at me and you know, downplay me. You do it this way and it's my practice and all of that. I was like, meh, none of this works for me. So the moment the moment I realized that, I had made it my plan, and I said, you know what, I'm not gonna work for anyone. I'm gonna work for myself. So I went into hustling, and hustling is a different beast, because when you're hustling and you don't really work for nobody and you do several different things and you make money and you in the street life, you already get a different respect. So that was the thing that I felt, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I could do this. And then after a while, that street life and that hustle mentality in the fields that I was used to because of the environment. I didn't live the environment I was in caused for me to hustle in ways that didn't really benefit my soul. They benefited me financially, they benefited my ego greatly, and they really didn't benefit my soul nor the souls of others that I worked with. So I had to search into that mindset and say, well, how do we change that? And then I embraced the idea of, I want to do what the fuck I love. That's the highest version of me. That's in an alignment. That's in alignment with harmony. That's going to bring me more of what I want. So I started to release money, and then I manifested the things that I need, the basics, the vital things, free. I just started to all these opportunities fell where I didn't have to worry about the things that most people live miserably to worry about. So I was like, oh, I'm on the path. I'm still on that path. I have to keep reminding myself this is for something else. I'm leaving I left the environment that didn't work for me, and I got into a medium environment, then I got to a little higher environment. Now we're going to another unknown level. And that might be my galacticness.
Might be.
That's how I look at it.
Love it.
Just
I don't even remember the question anymore.
Yeah, no, I had asked about have you worked somewhere, because the questions I have down here is where, you know, where you work matters. And you know, so the questions you have to ask yourself is, does it inspire you, does it give you creativity and productivity? Because I know I worked somewhere where I was fighting against the environment and the culture, and really it was, I need to be my own boss. I don't need to listen to anybody. So have you had that experience, Lisa?
Yeah,
Where
yeah. I've worked in different jobs that had different degree of dissatisfaction, but I think I always knew they were all going to be stepping stones. And some I think I stayed in longer because if you just get used to it, even if it's uncomfortable. Today I was at a department store and I was talking to the girl in the shoe department, and she was just talking. I said, yeah, listen, I worked here already, like not that place, but I was like, I already know they're rolling dice in the back. But I was just like she's like, yeah, I just don't like it here. And I'm just like, yeah, well then hang tight and do what you need to do so that you're not here later. You're not here next year or later this year. So I think it's taking that ownership of knowing when a job is awful or it's make you uncomfortable, or you have to deal with people in their lowest vibration, knowing, okay, maybe right this moment I'm here, but what can I actively do to find something that really feels like it's going to nourish me? Because sometimes I'll have friends where we spoke 6 months ago, they said they were done with their job, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? Have you been looking for other jobs? Nope. Okay, cool. I mean, I know sometimes, and then another 6 months or 2 years, and then it's just like you owe it to yourself, not to anyone else. So it's not like, oh, you told someone you were going to look for a job, so now you have to. But it's like, are you feeling good? Are you feeling valued? Are you feeling like this is what you do well, and you like the results that it brings out? Cool. Because also, if you don't agree with like the mission of your employer, then it's probably not a good place for you to be. I had a job once working for a law office that was on Social Security disability. So everybody it would help those people with their cases, but everybody had to be sick in order to be a client. But the problem is we couldn't actually do anything to help them have some relief. It was just waiting for a court date. So it was just like when I speak to people all day long, it was just, do you have any more illnesses? And usually getting cussed out. So I was like, this isn't going to work.
Right.
So just understanding the culture, some jobs overtime is required. If you hate that life, don't do it. Like I've always felt in New York, when I'd have all these finance friends that would work like 100 hours and eat lunch at their desk, but they'd make like my salary was their bonus, more than whatever I made was their bonus, more. I still always thought, nah, I wouldn't switch with them because their day-to-day just wouldn't work for me. So it's just really, what if something's not working, you don't owe anyone an explanation on why you're leaving the money, why are you leaving the security. Are you more entrepreneurial or less? It doesn't matter what other people think of you in terms of what you do for your to earn your money. It's you being comfortable with your job, no matter what title it is.
That's so on point. So many people are so used to being in that I need a job, I need a job, I need a job. They're not used to, nor are they comfortable with that. I can create a job, I can create a job, I can create a job. They do not think that. I have a friend, I swear to God, I got a friend who every 3 to 6 months is getting a new job. So I'm gonna quit, I'm quitting this job, leave this job. Why? What's the issue? The supervisor spoke to me. Oh, the boss said. It's always authority. So I tell him, I'm like, dude, you do not realize you don't like working for people, but the concept of him being his own authority, the concept of him having control over his own life, fucking foreign. All right, sorry.
No, I agree with both of the things that you guys said. I think work is really important. Where you live and where you work really, really matters because you're spending a great deal of your time there. And, one of the things we mentioned when we were talking about where you live is that we don't give ourselves permission to dream. And I think we do that with work. We do that with our careers. We go, here's the lane and how do I fit into the lane, instead of what if I could create my own lane and things could be the way I needed it to? You have to be able to dream to figure that out and then try to do more of that. That's how you create your own lane. You don't look for the lane. You tap into your creativity. You are more free. You have to empower yourself when you feel limited. I mean, I worked for a long time in retail as a manager, and I would fly around and open stores and train the staff and do the grand opening and fly again and go to the next store and build the culture and everything. But I just hate, I thought it was authority. I thought I hated authority because I would get into something with my boss all the time. But what it was I just wanted more freedom. I didn't want to fit into this box of here's how you do it. And this is the only way. And you get this many hours with this many people. And then we do this dog and pony show when people were coming around from corporate office so they could see what real life isn't like, you know? It was just crazy, but I felt like, well, how am I going to make more money? That's where I was making the money. You can't just start a new job or a new career, right, and make the same amount of money. At least I didn't think so. So it's about like removing these limitations. Whatever it is that we feel limited by, we've got to get creative and empower ourselves in a relationship in the relationships that we're in, whether it's with a community, it's with a person, it's with a building, you know, whatever it is that we have to figure out, like, okay, this is hard for me. How do I get around this? And you know, that's the best lesson that I learned in work, is that don't force myself to do shit I don't feel comfortable doing, and I got to get all this courage. No, I don't need to get all this courage. I need to figure out a creative way I can empower myself that doesn't make me feel angst and whatever, where I like, this is easy for me to do, and it's you know, and I got to move in that direction. And that's not what I was doing before. So yeah, so work is really important. The other thing, okay, because sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to ask you, were you finding employees rolling dice in the back at your retail stores?
I found an employee once. I was a manager at a big box retailer. Let's just say it was this. And it was like, you know, it was like it was a home improvement type place. So, you know, that's not where all the college educated folks are, you know. So
at my job, they'd have sex in the stock room.
Listen, I was looking for this guy. That's crazy. I was looking for this guy for hours. I could not find him. He was sleeping in the conduit. So all the electrical pipe that you get, there was this bay that you pull open, and he was sleeping inside there because he had a long.
My God.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa. But you know, now I would handle that so much different. But I was just like, these people don't give up about business and you know, because you know, they don't get shit done. I gotta stay and do it. So yeah.
You look like the manager I don't want coming by if I just put some money on the ground.
No, you know what? I was the fun manager. I was the manager that brought all the fun, that just said like it was a requirement to have fun, but fun couldn't replace like taking care of business. And so that's where there would be like this problem sometimes, is that, you know, they thought like, okay, but you said have fun. Yeah, I don't mean like ignore the customers. I mean like take care of business too. And we just have a lot of fun. So anyway, lastly, the other thing, so we talked about where you live, we talked about where you work. The other thing is who you interact with. Now, why is that important for an environment you thrive in? And what would that include? So that, I'm sorry, that would include like, you know, your coworkers, if you've got kids, your siblings, your family, your partner, just anybody that you interact with all day long and the most.
Yeah, well, of course, that's a major important thing because of the energies that we're subjecting ourselves to. There's triggers that come up when you rub against other people and you're like, you know, sharing space and energy with them, especially parents and family members. So one of the things about environments and our belief systems, some of the main things that we come from are being around our parents or the people who raised us, and that becomes our belief systems. We subconsciously already believe that they know everything for us. That's just, you have so much time where you're depending on mom and dad or whoever is raising you to know what's best for you. So then that's a main thing. And then when you shift from that, you have to shift into making your own decisions, having your own opinions. And then you start choosing people that reflect those people you trusted. So then when that doesn't work out or those things affect you, we internalize it and we think it's us. And then we have relationship with self based off of the relationships we have with those things we've seen around us. So it's important to, once you know this, because that's all process, that's just all human nature, you know, progression and evolution. But once you start getting older, you're now responsible to say, I got to be a little bit more selective about who I'm picking, how they make me feel, how I'm making them feel. So when I learned that, it wasn't, oh, I don't like the way they treat me. It wasn't so much that. I've gone through so much abuse on so many different levels my whole life. I had become normal to it. What happened was I became abusive. I was like, I'll be damned. I keep getting abused out here. I'm going to adopt all this. I was like, I'll just adopt all of this abusive experience. I've survived. And now I'll boil it into this weapon. And so now I became the dominant person. And so it was those things that I was doing, that I was becoming that toxic person, that whatever it was that I didn't like. And I would do that to people I loved and cared about in whatever ways. And that was when I started to realize, I don't like this. Where does this come from? And that's when I started to dig into that idea and realize, you've been trained this way because of your environment. And then when I was angry at those people who trained me, I had to dig that out too. They also were treated like that, so on and so forth and so forth. It was never through, oh, I don't like the way I was treated. It was, I didn't like who I became. I was hurting myself. I wrote a poem about my mom, and it's so hard to like ever let her hear it. But I talk about my self-loathing and where it stemmed from. And when I did the work on it, it stemmed from the fear of ever becoming like her. And my mother's amazing. Mind you, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's fun, she's loving, she's a lot of things. But there were deeper things that no one could never know because they're not me. You know what I mean? They don't have that thing with her. But that's where it came from. It came from my environment, and that came from her environment, and that so on and so forth. And so that's why your environment is so important, because it's forming you, it's molding and sifting you.
Agreed. I love it. Well, I guess we'll hear the poem. I thought you were going to read the poem, so we're at the end.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
waiting for that too.
Well, you guys, I love you guys so much. I will share it with both of you personally after this.
All right. And I agree. Lisa, you got some you want to add to it?
Sure, and who you choose to interact with at whatever time, you're responsible for what you're allowing into your life. Like once you recognize that some people in your life just don't fit with how you want to live now or who you want to be, being conscientious of letting other people with those same kind of, that same character come into your space, and being careful so you don't become the people that you wanted to move away from. So I have like a little story from college when I met a girl who she knew where the hair salons were in Jamaica, Queens. So I thought this was a match made in heaven. And we went to the hair salon, and then she wanted to invite me to a house party. I said, house parties where I come from usually have a lot of problems. And, I'm out here for a fresh start, like I feel like I dodged every bullet. I'm not doing house parties. She's like, no, maybe that's house parties in Boston, but house parties in Queens, New York are completely different. So I go, and this girl almost gets killed all night long. She had so much drama with so many people. I don't know how I walked out of there without like a slashed face. And I thought she was like the victim. And then I quickly saw that same night that there was some things that she was doing that was perpetuating these problems. When she called me the next day for us to go to the hair salon, I told her, I'm sorry, I can't be friends with you. This doesn't work with my new moral code. She's like, well, what do you mean? So I listed every single thing that happened that night and how that wasn't going to work for the life that I was trying to have. And that was the end of our friendship. And I know that was very dramatic, but that was a young me being scared, screaming like bloody hell. I don't want that life that I just escaped from. I wanted to create a different kind of life in New York that I didn't have access to where I came from. So in life, I think it's important, and it doesn't have to be dramatic, but acknowledging where the direction you're going in and making sure things fit, because if they don't, you're setting yourself up for a lot of difficulty.
I agree. And I think, who we interact with, whether they're at work, in our homes, through the day, if they're people that we are around constantly, and it isn't an empowering situation. Often there's a lot of friction. I know in my past, situation, there was just a lot of friction at home. There's a lot of friction with the dogs. There's a lot of friction at work. It just, but I wasn't evaluating. I was upset about it. and I was fighting against it, but I didn't realize that I just needed to relieve a lot of pressure. And I was wondering why I was ending up in the hospital a lot, because I would hold, I felt like I had to be in these situations. I had to have this, I own the business. How I'm going to leave it, and there was so much friction between my partner and I that, I just was not thriving. And so now I understand that I have to have a home I thrive in. I got to live in a neighborhood I thrive in. But first, my mental emotional state had to be, I had to work on that first. And I'm constantly working on that. But I also, wanted to work on to change who I collaborate with, and not just interact, but who I collaborate with. Because I say that in a way that, there's some family members, I love them to death. They will always be my family, but I collaborate with them a lot less than I do other people that I feel like, when I leave, I don't feel drained. I don't feel frustrated about something. And I'm just teaching myself that it's okay. That doesn't mean, I get to just ruin all these relationships and I'm walking away from everybody. But I am minimizing contact if I feel like when we get together, if we can't create joy and love and all this goodness, and we're in blame and fighting and who's doing what to whom, like I don't have time for it. So I realize I thrive more when I'd rather just be by myself than than to be with somebody who's complaining about their life, so.
I was gonna say that just reminded me of a perfect example. I have like a family member who I just on a lot of fronts. She's just not the we don't vibe. But we're on a family plan for our cell phones, right? And she's super responsible, and it's under my account. But I've had absolutely no issue with that. We might stay on, like we might not talk the whole year, but and if she forgets to pay, it's okay because she, you know what I'm saying? She's good for
Yeah.
it. But it's like it's so funny because I've limited exactly what you said, how much we collaborate. So it's like, for our phone provider, cool, but for going on a girls trip, it ain't happening.
Right. Love that. So the reason I wanted to do this episode is because I think that, there's times where we're feeling unfulfilled in our life. And a lot of times we're feeling unfulfilled is because we haven't created, our work environment, our relationships, and the spaces that we live in that help us thrive. We're talking in the other podcast, I think we didn't even publish yet, is that, we're kind of like a plant, and that's our ecosystem around us. And we've got to be in a situation where life is good for us. It doesn't mean everybody has to cater to us and that we're victims and all that. I don't mean in that way. What I've learned is that I've got to empower myself, and I've got to create my life in a way that keeps me happy and keeps me thriving, so that people don't have to keep me thriving. So, having, deciding I'm going to figure out where else I want to live in the world. I never even thought about that. I thought California is it. I don't want to move anywhere else. Well, shit, I haven't even visited anywhere else to even think about it. So now I'm like, why do I have to live in one state? I could live in two. I could live in three. How about I don't have to live anywhere for a long amount of time. I could say I want to live in the Caribbean for 3 months, and then I want to live here for, now the possibility is open, and I'm open to dreaming. So it's just really important that we're out here dreaming.
Yes, it's a key. It's a key. For those of you who are watching, there's realities, several different ones. There are doors, dimensions, belief systems. Get yourself a key and get there. And you got the keys. You got all the keys in your key chain.
Yes. All you got to do is give yourself permission to dream, and you want to empower yourself in anything that you're in a relationship with, whether it's, money, if it's causing stress for you. I don't know anybody it doesn't fucking cause stress for, but I've learned that being in stress for money brings me more lack. So how do I empower myself? And the way I empower myself is not necessarily to get into action, but to get into fulfillment. Where do I feel most fulfilled, so that if I don't get paid, I'm still all right?
Yeah.
But also that, I'm getting money in ease, and I'm not trying to push against anything. Whether we're in relationships with our families, where, you know, maybe they're not supporting us the way we want them to, or whatever. You know, people are doing the best that they can. And when we mentioned before in one of our episodes that we're going to allow people to have their emotional journey, we're not going to judge them. Just like if they had a wounded shoulder, we wouldn't feel bad because they have a wounded shoulder and can't carry our bags. We'd be like, okay, they're wounded, and I'm just going to know that that's where they are, and I don't have to do everything for them, but I'm going to collaborate with some other people right now. That's what the universe is telling me. I need to collaborate with some other folks. So, you know, and then lastly, just give yourself permission to dream. That is the most important thing. You got to let yourself, even if it feels like it's so far away, you don't even know how it's possible. You want to give yourself permission to dream about the environment you'd want to live in and how you want it to feel, because you'll get closer to it that way than in being in how it's not happening. So you got any parting words, Lisa and Janessa?
I do.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to add to what you just said. One of the best things that I learned during that process right there is like, my first step is the big dream, the little small parts. Whenever I get overwhelmed by, but how is that going to happen? How is this huge, giant, amazing, permissional, you gave yourself permission to dream, going to happen? And then I go, that's not my job. It's the universe's job. I'm not allowed to learn. I mean, to spend energy on how. It's my job is the dream. The universe is take care of the rest.
Right.
I just wrote down, dreaming is your higher self directing you to what you want and deserve in this lifetime.
Yes, that's the
Right.
truth, girl. Your little verbal self over there.
You know what? So that was the answer to all our problems. It was to dream, and it was to be creative in solving our problems in the way that made it best for us, not in how other people say we should solve them. And and that's by going within, and that's by collaborating with the universe, and not necessarily with everybody who's not ready to collaborate with you. So
We love you guys. We hope.
Thank you for watching today. We hope that some of the feedback we've given you helps you get some clarity on the best environments for yourself, including where you live, where you work, and the people that you have in your life. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do. And we will see you here next time. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
My joyful friends, that's our show. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and leave a review. Share this episode with someone you think would get some value out of it. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.